Welcome to another episode of Game of Attention, where today we're talking about human empathy versus AI and how they work together. We have an article from Hospitality and Catering News that talks about how AI is taking hospitality to the next level. And when we see things like the market size of smart hospitality estimated to be at 133.7 billion by 2031, I think it's really important that we discuss how these two parts come together. So to do that today, we have a more traditional marketer in Saakshi who's got amazing hospitality experience, and she'll tell us a little bit about herself now. And Sophie, who's on the AI side and also comes from a bit of a leisure background.
Yes, I've done my major in PR communications, but hospitality has always been sort of on the traditional end, but I think it does go hand in hand with technology. So I'm looking forward to this chat with you guys today and see what we can learn from it.
I'm a customer success manager here at Dragonfly AI. And previous to this, I worked in leisure tech. And before then, and my background really is in health. And I used to work for a premium leisure chain in the UK. So once again, really looking forward to this conversation to see how those two can really blend.
So we're just going to dive in with the first question. Sophie, if I can direct this one to you. So AI is a pro in operational efficiency, and that's something that hospitality is looking to. But how do humans better understand that and respond to complex and unique customer needs compared to AI systems?
Do you know what? I don't think it's a coincidence that the core values of large hospitality companies generally include a focus on their teams. For centuries, brands have understood that the better they take care of their teams, the bigger the impact on their customers. And when it comes to understanding and reacting to those complex customer needs, I don't believe that AI is quite there yet to fully comprehend all of the flexible nuances that make us human and then adapt accordingly to that. Whereas humans are much more naturally equipped to understand and respond to other human emotions. And I think we can better read a customer's emotional state through those non-verbal cues. And those complex needs do often have an emotional component that AI could really easily overlook.
I absolutely agree with Sophie. I feel like AI, as it is definitely broken through a great technological, I wouldn't say barrier, like an advancement or evolution, but it's still at a very nascent stage. And if you look at hospitality and you talk about hospitality, it has always been about getting that service, that interaction with the guests, with the people who work at the hotel. When you go to a restaurant to eat, the service that you get over there. So right from the first touch point till the time you leave, you are in interaction to something or the other. And there is definitely a long way to go. But I feel like it's coming at the right time where you can see the advancement at a very small stage, and you can see it helping a lot of businesses. But there's, like I said, a long way to go.
Do we think this is going to be different with the next generation?
Completely. We're at the stage now where, especially within hospitality, AI has a really true function. It's really growing. So I guess virtual assistants could be a really great example of this. And they really excel here because they can process and analyze huge amounts of data really quickly and apply consistent rules and automate those repetitive tasks for the team, which leaves the staff to then focus on that kind of secondary level of support where empathy can truly make a difference to that customer experience that we live to expect when we go somewhere like a nice hotel or restaurant or somewhere like that.
I definitely think it's going to be like children, the generation always makes a massive difference because we've seen it in our day-to-day lives as hospitality professionals that it differs. Every generation is very different. We have app-based loyalty programs that not everybody might be able to, they're not they're very user friendly, but not everybody is used to using them. So that's like a previous generation, but the newer generation is going to be super switched on. And I think this is where I tie it back into what I was saying before, that there's a long way to go because we will have to kind of step ahead to cater to those needs, because they will be our audience in the future.
It's going to be really interesting to see in the next 5 years kind of where that goes and whether we lose that empathy in the process or whether that we find a way to merge it together.
I don't think we can ever lose the empathy. We shouldn't lose the empathy. I personally feel so, because then the whole point of creating that value for somebody who's spending their hard-earned money, for a little getaway, or even if it's, somebody sending their business person for a beating, they want to make sure that the professionals kept in good conditions with sustainability around them, so that they can do their job better. So for me, it will always remain a non-negotiable in terms of the human bit. Then you have to keep up with the trends.
So with the future role of AI in customer success and hospitality, and how might this evolve? And where do you see this merging to move forward together and keep that important empathy?
So, like I said, I feel future is now. And we can already see that at the back of a lot of hospitality chains who have integrated AI into their chatbots, and understanding user profiles and bits like that. But then again, we always go back to the whole point of how do you involve the intuitiveness or the empathy that a human being provides. In terms of evolution, also, like I said, the end user is the target audience. And there is also a massive generational difference that we can see. So I think I was watching a Netflix documentary recently which said 90s was the biggest boom when it comes to tech. And that has been the last 20 or 30 years of our lives. And it wasn't the same before that. So I think technology is definitely going to grow faster, AI part of it. And if they're going to be on their phones using an AI kind of technology, or expect the hotel to understand their needs before they step into it, we'll have to be switched on. So I think that is what is required from it. It's like, you have to marry the two things. It can't be just that one thing overall where AI takes over, because there has to be harmony in the two concepts where the guest is happy with the level of technology provided. Now we go to our hotels and we press a button and the drapes open up, and that's a fun factor. But maybe 20 years later it won't be the same. It might be a technology that still gives that wow factor, and there is still human touch or some kind of empathy or creativity that's involved, that makes them feel warm and welcome.
I definitely agree with that. I think I read somewhere that PwC has estimated that AI could add 15 trillion to the global economy. And so it's going to touch hospitality in some way or another. And we've already seen some really awesome concepts. I think there's a hotel called Henna in Japan, which is the robot hotel. And that could become an industry within itself, because people love to have those really unique experiences when it comes to tech. But I guess for the normal, everyday hospitality setting, I think when it comes to customer-facing AI, we're going to see, in the short term at least, an enhancement in those existing processes. So more virtual assistants and contactless check-in. And I think it's going to take a really special company or hotel, or probably more likely someone a bit more independent, to take a leap into those more creative AI experiences, hopefully somewhere not too far down the line for us to see.
I read that hoteliers in Asia, Europe, and North America, that 24% of them use tech to improve guest experience, and only 5% for time saving. So the highest percentage was for guest experience, which brings me quite nicely. And you've both touched on experience, and I think that's a key word here, because AI cannot give us an experience.
Yes.
Not like people can.
I mean, not yet.
Not yet. But I hope that we never lose the humanity aspect. The role of emotional intelligence in hospitality and marketing, and how it compares to AI's capabilities, and what role AI can play in building those long-term relationships and loyalty with guests, because loyalty is a massive aspect.
How I look I think for AI to predict those bits about me as a person, it's very important that they have the data, to run with it. And if you're not sharing your data, because I think our generation's still a bit cautious about where we're putting our information and how is it going. So it might not be possible for AI to give you that seamless experience that you probably had the first time because you did not give your details or they did not have the data to run. However, if you met the executive chef and he remembers you, he's going to welcome you back and give you that little extra, I don't know, dessert when you're walk before you pay your bill, and that's going to make the whole experience even sweeter. We can always put it into an AI system, and it builds beautiful ads. I use it myself sometimes to see what they have, but to touch the target audience, where they will literally come and buy, take the action of the call to action, or that the bit where you click the link, or you want to go and search the keyword. It comes out of creativity, and I think that is still with humans. I can give humans that crown, that this is all at the back of the brains and minds and intelligence of humans. So the AI might be able to collate everything that we've had in the last 100 years together to give you a beautiful creative, but the actual creativity of what you'd want to do with your brand, or something for your target audience, would come from you.
That's so true. And when it comes to emotional intelligence, from my point of view, I've been lucky enough to travel a little bit, and the ability to understand how another person is feeling is so vital to forming healthy relationships. For some, for example, if you're traveling for work, traveling can be such an isolating experience. And so even at a basic level, understanding the emotional needs of a customer just can't be overlooked, I don't think. So let's say you're traveling and a piece of tech remembered your name. Well, that's great. But it's completely different from a person on a front desk remembering your name. One has a huge amount of data behind it within reach, and humans only have a limited memory. And for them to remember your name, for some, that can be really surprise and delight moment. But I think in the current economy, it's really tough out there, especially for hospitality. And, unfortunately, cuts are being made to, especially staffing hours. It can be really tight on time. Let's say if you're working on a reception. And where AI can come in there, I think, is it can provide a consistent response to, let's say, all those general queries that come in a virtual assistant style, and it's available 24/7. It can address all those basic customer inquiries. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't have an emotional bias. And then that means that, once again, those teams on reception can really have those great experiences with the customers in front of them. And then the people that necessarily don't want that, or they're too short on time, or maybe they're just a bit introverted and they don't want to speak to this amazing extroverted person on reception, they can pop onto their phone maybe and check in and be really happy with that process too. So it's about, finding a balance, I think, at the moment.
Yeah.
I think you've touched on a really key thing there, accessibility. I know, Saakshi, you mentioned earlier about not everyone is up with the apps, and kind of meeting them where they are. If it's not on the apps, finding ways to meet them elsewhere. But also, like you say, people with disabilities or anxiety or mental health problems who don't want to or don't have the capability, or just having a crap day, and have that accessibility is really important too.
Yeah, and it's nice that you say that, Becca, because it makes me realize that it's been a long time coming where people have started addressing mental health issues, and then when you have AI, you have to be very careful because, like we say, it's going to be robotic. So that little we can only hope that it brings in that level of empathy. I was also thinking about, you said, in terms of building long-term relationships, in AI, there's also, as I mentioned before, already some apps and softwares now that help hospitality kind of predict trends. So I think those bits are definitely going to be super useful in taking away that extra human hours of physically going and developing or creating those research documents for what type of trends. And then you can then focus on more bits like empathy and, how do I make my messaging a bit more intuitive for the people I want to come to my hotel.
Yeah, there's I think Amazon, was it Amazon, who use AI? They're using generative AI to like collate reviews and then pick out the keywords from reviews, and it's something that could feed into quite an effective feedback loop.
It's obviously great to have those problem areas identified, but then you also need human hands to physically do something about them, right? So if somebody was unhappy with their bedroom, or somebody was not happy with the service provided with them, will it be better if you send them an email saying, oh, we're sorry that you had this experience, or probably have like a manager go speak with them and give them that little apology and a little bit extra, just make them feel that their voice is being heard, and bring their loyalty back to the brand.
Yeah. Do you think, Sophie, because you're obviously customer success for an AI product, so do you think that your customers, if something goes wrong, do they blame you more or the product? Like, where is the human reassurance is obviously really important, but what's the balance from your side on empathy and AI?
That's a really good question. I don't think I've ever, thankfully, been in that situation. But I think humans have an innate ability sometimes to not want to blame something on another human, especially when there is another option of something that is completely unsentient and doesn't have feelings. So I can imagine from sometimes they might want to err towards blame, not necessarily being the right word, but blaming the tech to almost save face. But I think as people's trust in tech becomes, better over the years, as they start to see those positives come back out of it, then maybe that balance will change a little bit, because people do love to trust data at the end of the day. But you've got some people that are really objective and they love data, and that's great for them. And then you've got another side of people, a lot more subjective, maybe a bit more personable, and can see that grey area too. So a bit of a fuzzy answer there, but yeah. It's a tough one.
I think regardless of whichever side you're on, whether you're more traditional or more kind of AI side, we can all agree that the data is important. I mean, that is, regardless, doesn't matter how you do it. Learning about customers, guests, whichever side of the coin you fall on is important, because the more you know, the better service you can provide. And that's true regardless of time, generation. The more you know, the better you can do.
We have to keep up with the trends. We have to keep up with the generation. So we
it's too much to do.
All together.
Just need to do everything. There is something that there's a feeling when I go home and I land in Cape Town and I give them my passport and the passport officer goes, "Welcome home." That feeling that you get, that value and that relevance that you suddenly have, when a hotel can create that, that's it. They've hit the big bucks.
And I think it's a testimony in itself when you look at the big hotel chains like Marriott and Hyatt and, all the big ones. They've got thousands of hotels all over the world. It's because guest satisfaction, customer experiences, it's key. It's inbred in every person who joins the business. And I think that's always the key focus. So this is what's running the businesses, I think.
Which brings me quite nicely to brand memory. So that's obviously really important for loyalty, remembering the brand, whether that's brand colors or how you felt or how you were treated. In what ways do you create environments for this to flourish, and how might technology help now and in the future?
I feel like loyalty has already gone very direct friendly now. Loyalty is points based, it's app based. We've got our Nectar cards, we've got our Tesco QR codes. So somewhere the tech already embedded that loyalty bit. However, I do think in terms of AI, it's not, I don't see it very far that you're going to walk into a store and it's going to recognize you and your points are going to come into. So I do see that happening not only for a store. I see that happening maybe even in hospitality, that it might be, we might be able to recognize guests through facial recognition or bits like that. But then again, this is we've got things like GDPR, we've got the massive data guideline rule book that we have to be careful of. So I think with this, unfortunately or fortunately, only time will tell, because there's a government kind of rule also playing at the back of it, that how much is it going to be, where do we draw the line, when it comes to personal data.
That's very true. And I hadn't thought of that myself, to be honest, because I think I only really see the positive side of stuff. And, from time to time you forget that GDPR and privacy is so central to larger businesses. For me, I don't think I'd mind if I walked into a store and it recognized my face and maybe half of my shopping cart was already full. But I know that that's probably not the right way to go, because it could have implications a lot of other places in your life too, if someone could recognize your face. But when it comes to loyalty, I think you're right what you said about loyalty programs, and brands are already offering those personalized rewards and experiences that can really help retain customers and keep the brand at the forefront of their minds too. I can imagine it being quite nice if you returned back to a hotel and let's say you had a massage in the spa. When you returned back, as part of the loyalty program, that might be offered to you over a drink in the bar, because the brand knows that's significantly more up your street and what you like to do to relax in your spare time. So hopefully we'll continue to see more of that and those positive outputs. I know another part of brand loyalty is people love to go online and write feedback, right? And there's nothing better than getting a little message back from the manager that's like professional and personalized. And that's already able to be done by AI. I'm pretty sure you could pop into ChatGPT. Here's the feedback. Please create me a professional and personalized response, and then great, it'll snip out afterwards. And although it is really important to get back to the customers because they have spent their time and energy and put a lot of thought sometimes into that review, sometimes it's not really important. It might not be a priority at that time for maybe one of the managers or one of the team to respond, but it still ensures that something gets back and something is done. And then AI can be used to collate all that feedback earlier, as I've said, to start noticing those trends and what's actually happening on the ground.
I mean, in my experience, I can definitely tell you that reputation management, at least in the last 10 years that I've been in the industry, it has been a massive, massive point for a marketing communications department. If not the marketing communications office, it would be the front office. If not the front office, it would be the general manager's office. But that feedback is super important. And as you said, the brand loyalty bit, you understand and learn so much sometimes, because you've got a 400, 500,000 room hotel. You're the one person managing it and you don't know what's going on in every room. So they do, there's such great tools to know, but, and I feel like a lot of guests, and this is again where human interaction come in, they don't always choose to speak about it. And this is negative reviews I'm talking about. Positive reviews are always great. They don't always choose to talk about it online. I think the first touch point is always the front office manager or the reception, where they will let them know, and we try to solve that within. So I think even from an AI point of view, again, that's a great example to kind of see that these kind of bits, which might be very specific to people, might not be AI might not be able to generate answers or solutions to problems.
My concern with not getting that balance right is guests or customers feeling like they've been fobbed off, like they're not worth the person's time, and an AI has just dealt with them, because that's, the point of any business is ultimately to make money.
Yeah.
and for a customer or guest to feel that they're not important enough to be spoken to by a human, if that's what they need, and being able to figure out whether they'd be satisfied with an AI response. Or, I mean, obviously when you're leaving a review on Google, no one expects like a heartfelt communication. But, you know, if you walk into a hotel and you're looking for someone and no one's available and you just have this AI talking at you,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know.
I don't
I
know.
feel the same. Like the hotel that you've mentioned before, Sophie, and I think I've read about it as well. And I always wonder, like, how is it going? It would be a great experience, but would it be my go-to? I still don't know. If and especially because I belong to this generation and I work in the hospitality. I love, being social and talk in terms of what sort of an environment would be created. And I think based on what Sophie and I just said, it has to be the experience. It's the guest experience, the
Yeah.
customer experience, it's the customer satisfaction, and that is what's going to bring the loyalty back. It will always remain the backbone of loyalty. Even if you look at an app and if it's got 1,000 downloads, it's because the user experience is great, the journey is great. So it's about how the person's feeling about using that service or the good, and they'll give. We are humans. We love to give our loyalties to anything that gives us back.
I'd love to know what's going to happen in the next 10 years, but I do think balance is a thing. I think that monetization is a thing. Like, we have to monitor what's going on, but also sharing of data, because like you said about privacy, but how do we share that data globally? Like, is it a global thing, or is it different in every country? Or, the governance of it is
And
very
who has
confusing.
this data? How secure is this data? Can people break into this data? We've had so many issues of, people breaking into the data in the last few years as well. So I
Yeah.
think it needs to be watertight. It has to be, otherwise, it's just a flow. It can be very, very dangerous.
I mean, the beauty of hospitality is people. And the key thing is finding a way for AI to support people in their roles to create better experiences.
Yes.
I think that's how I would summarize. I've noticed over the last couple of weeks, I think it was just before Christmas, there are companies that are starting to issue AI-free guarantees. Because AI has taken over so much that there is a serious lacking in the human aspect. And some people, when they pay for something, they want to know that it hasn't just been ChatGPT'd. They want to know that a person has done it.
They'll definitely have a nice target market in that segment. But wait 20 years and then we'll see. The people, kids who don't have any patience, and they'll have like zero patience to do bits and pieces. That what I think. It's they won't bother. Like Sophie said, I think we'll all come to a point where our patience is going to run out. We'll be like, just scan me and just take my details. I can't be bothered.
It'll be really interesting over the next few years, maybe the next decade. We'll see
Yeah.
start to see something really truly different come along.
Yeah, I think for me, if I had to summarize, I would say it has to be balanced. There has to be, you have to kind of take the best of both worlds, especially at the pace that we're growing, and then bring out the best for the end consumer, because you've got a business to run, and to make it a successful one, you want your customer to be happy.
I think for me, my takeaway would be that it's really important for the teams to understand how to leverage AI in a way that works for them so they can become more effective and efficient in their work. And I think that companies or people that work in these companies who don't necessarily educate themselves in AI and how it's moving may find themselves in a bit of a challenging situation, because they'll be competing against other brands who are able to maybe produce a higher volume of or more optimized marketing material using AI, particularly with this personalized and trend-led assets that might be coming out. So I think it's like you say, a really nice balance. Pick those areas that you really want to hold dear to your heart, those customer facing, really warm experiences that can really create that loyalty, and then maybe a bit more back of house focus on, all those ways that AI can really help expand the business and support the teams that work there too.
I mean, we currently have a lot of companies are taking on AI experts, so maybe in 10 years we'll have empathy experts to bring it back the other way.
I think I'm applying for that job.
I'm not sure that's the job for me.
Well, thank you both very much for your time and for your insights. It's been really interesting bringing these two worlds together.